before the chart, before the watch list, before the pre-market scan, before the economic calendar, before you have checked a single level or read a single price action signal, there is one step, and 95% of traders skip it every single session. Not because they do not know it exists, but because they have never been told precisely what it is, why it matters structurally, and how the absence of it is the specific mechanism by which otherwise sound strategies produce inconsistent results. The step takes less than 3 minutes. It cannot be done on a phone while you are making coffee. It requires you to be seated, journal open, pen in hand, and it is the difference, not sometimes, not in theory, but mechanically, causally, in the actual chain of events that produces your trading decisions between executing your system and being executed by the market. I want to start with a question that I think most traders have never seriously asked themselves, even though it sounds obvious when I put it plainly. What state are you in when you sit down to trade? Not what the market is doing, not what the setup looks like. What state are you in? What is the quality of your attention right now? What emotional residue are you carrying from yesterday's trades, from this morning's news, from the conversation you just had, from the sleep you did or did not get? What are the specific conditions of the instrument that is about to be used to execute a high-precision task in a probabilistic environment where the margin for behavioral drift is brutally thin? You check the instrument every day. You look at every chart you trade with a level of attention that would impress most people outside this business. And then you pick up the instrument, the person doing the trading, without looking at it at all. You just assume it is ready. And it is often not. This is not a metaphor. I want to be precise about what I mean, because the word psychology gets used in trading education in a way that makes it feel vague and philosophical and somewhat disconnected from the actual mechanics of what determines a trade's execution quality. So let me be concrete. The quality of your attention at the moment of executing a trade determines, among other things, whether you see the setup clearly or through the filter of your current emotional state, whether the position size you place is what your plan specifies, or what your current risk appetite, inflated or deflated by recent results, has silently revised it to, whether you hold the trade according to your exit criteria, or whether you exit it at the point where your current emotional tolerance runs out, and whether you are able to not take trades that do not meet your criteria, or whether the urgency of your current state generates trades where there is no genuine edge. These are not psychological abstractions. These are the specific variables that determine whether your strategy works or does not work in your hands on any given day. And every one of them is influenced, more than most traders want to admit, by the state you were in when you sat down. The step that 95% of traders skip is a state assessment, a brief, structured, honest evaluation of the instrument before it is used. And I'm going to give you the exact format, the specific questions, the specific record, the specific decision rule that makes this step real rather than theoretical. Before every session, you open your journal, you write the date and the time, then you answer 4 questions in writing. Honest answers. Not the answers that make you sound like a disciplined trader. The true answers written down, because writing forces a specificity that thinking does not. The 4 questions are: 1, what is my emotional state right now, and what is it coming from? 2, what happened in my last session and how do I feel about it? Not how I think I should feel, how I actually feel. 3, is there anything outside the market in my life, in my relationships, in my physical state that is occupying significant attention right now? And 4, given my honest answers to questions 1, 2, and 3, what is my capacity for precise, planned, consistent execution in this session? Question 4 is the decision point. And this is where the step becomes more than a journaling exercise and becomes an operational protocol. Based on your honest answer to question 4, you make one of 3 decisions. Decision 1, I am in a good state for full execution. Proceed with normal session. Decision 2, my state is compromised in a specific way that I can account for. Proceed with reduced position size and heightened pre-trade screening. Decision 3, my state is significantly compromised. Today, I observe the market without executing. I watch the setups. I record what I would have done, but I do not place orders. Decision 3 is the one that feels the most radical, and it is the one that will save your account more money than almost any other single practice I can give you. Because there are days, and if you have been trading for more than a few months, you already know the specific feeling I am describing, where you sit down and everything feels slightly off. The attention is not quite sharp. The emotional weight from yesterday's session has not fully cleared. The stress from something completely outside the market is sitting in your chest in a way that is going to make it hard to hold a trade through a normal retracement without flinching. On those days, the market is not different. The setups are not worse. But the instrument U is operating at reduced capacity. In a precision instrument, operating at reduced capacity in a high-stakes environment produces outcomes that have nothing to do with the strategy's actual edge. They produce the emotional trading, the premature exits, the revenge trades, the oversized positions that are trying to compensate for the state you are in rather than executing the edge you have. Observation days are not defeat. They are the most disciplined possible response to honest self-assessment. They are the trading equivalent of a surgeon who walks into the OR, assesses his own state, and makes the professional decision that today he should not operate. The surgery does not happen without him. The market continues without you. The setups will be there tomorrow. What will also be there tomorrow, if you make the right call today, is the capital you would have lost trading at 60% of your capacity in a market that charges full price for every mistake. Let me tell you what this practice looked like in my own trading, because I think the abstract description of it and the actual lived experience of it are quite different. And the gap between them is where most people give up on the protocol before it has had a chance to demonstrate its value. When I first started doing structured state assessments before each session, I found something I did not expect. I found that I was not in a compromised state as often as I had feared. Most sessions, the honest answer to question 4 was, I am clear enough, I am ready to trade. But I also found, and this is the part that changed everything, that on the sessions where I was not clear, where the honest answer to question 4 was difficult or uncomfortable, the quality of my execution on those sessions without the protocol had been dramatically below my average. I could see it in the trades. The oversized entries, the early exits, the trades I took that did not meet my criteria because I was not attending carefully enough to know they did not qualify. The protocol did not tell me things I could not have known. It created the conditions, the structured pause, the honest written self-assessment under which I was able to know them. That is the entire function of the step. Not to give you new information, to create the conditions under which you have access to information you already have but are typically not using. Now I want to give you the second half of this step, because the pre-session assessment is necessary but not sufficient. There is also an in-session check, a brief, structured reset that happens at a specific trigger point during the session, not on a schedule, but when one of 3 things occurs. The 3 triggers are, you have just experienced a loss, you have just experienced a significant win, or you have been watching the market for more than 45 minutes without a qualifying setup. Any one of these 3 conditions is sufficient to trigger the in-session check. The check is shorter than the pre-session assessment. It has 2 questions. 1, what is my emotional state right now, and is it different from when I began the session? 2, if I am about to place a trade, is it because the setup meets my criteria, or because something in my current state is generating the impulse? If the answer to question 2 is anything other than clearly the former, the trade waits until you can answer it clearly, not forever, until you can answer it clearly. Sometimes that takes 30 seconds. Sometimes it takes walking away from the screen for 5 minutes. Sometimes it takes accepting that the session is over and you are not going to get a clear answer today. All of those are correct responses. The only incorrect response is placing the trade while the answer is unclear. I want to address something that I know some of you are thinking right now, because I hear it every time I describe this protocol. The objection is, this sounds like I am going to miss trades. And the answer is yes. Sometimes you will miss trades. On the days where the assessment reveals a compromised state and you choose to observe rather than execute, you will sometimes watch setups that would have worked. That is real, and I am not going to pretend it is not. The question is not whether the protocol cost you some winning trades. The question is whether the trades you make with full, clear, state-assessed execution produce better results across a large sample than the trades you make without it, including the losing trades on compromised state days that the protocol would have prevented. Every trader I have ever worked with who implemented this protocol seriously across at least 60 sessions came back with the same finding. The prevented losses on compromised state days exceeded in magnitude the missed wins on those same days. Not always. Across the sample, the math works because compromised state trading is not just slightly worse than clear state trading. It is categorically different. The errors are larger. The position sizes drift higher. The plan adherence drops precipitously. One compromised state session can produce losses that take 3 or 4 good sessions to recover. Preventing those sessions is not missing opportunity. It is protecting the compounding that the good sessions are trying to generate. Here is the practice summary, because I want you to be able to start this tomorrow without having to reconstruct it from memory. Before every session, journal open, 4 questions, written answers, decision 1, 2, or 3. During every session, in-session check triggered by loss, significant win, or 45 minutes without a setup, 2 questions, honest answers, proceed only if the setup answer is clearly yes. After every session, 1 additional record: did my state assessment match my actual execution quality? Were there moments where the state I assessed at the open showed up in the decisions I made during the session? Over time, this post-session record builds the map between your specific emotional states and your specific behavioral patterns. That map is worth more than any technical analysis framework you will ever develop. Because technical frameworks tell you what to do in the market. The state assessment map tells you when you are actually capable of doing it. 3 minutes before every session. 2 questions during it when the triggers fire. 1 record after it closes. That is the entire protocol. It is simple in structure and demanding in practice, which is exactly the profile of every intervention that actually works in trading. The simple things, done consistently, across a large sample, under conditions where it would be easy to skip them, that is what builds the professional edge. Not complexity, consistency, not sophistication. The discipline to do the same right thing, the same way, every session, whether you feel like it or not, whether the market is interesting or dull, whether the last session was great or terrible. The consistency is the edge. The step before the chart is where the consistency lives. Start there tomorrow. Everything else will follow. If this gave you the specific thing you needed, the missing piece, the protocol you can actually implement before tomorrow's open, stay here. The work we do on this channel is built around exactly this level of precision and practicality. Not inspiration, not motivation. The specific, repeatable practices that change results across time. Subscribe because you deserve content that takes the work as seriously as you do. Come back tomorrow. Come back the day after. The compound interest on consistent practice is the best trade you will ever make. But I want to go 1 layer deeper before I let you leave, because I think the question underneath the question here is one that matters. The question underneath the question is, why does the state assessment work? Not in the motivational sense, not the answer that says because it makes you more disciplined, because that is circular and unsatisfying. In the causal sense, what is actually happening when you sit down, open the journal, write honest answers to 4 questions, and make a deliberate decision about the session? What is the mechanism? Here is what I think is actually happening. And I want to be clear that this is my synthesis of years of working with traders and watching the protocol work and occasionally not work. When you do the state assessment, you are creating a brief window of metacognitive awareness, awareness of your own awareness before the stimulus environment of the market takes over. The market is a constant, relentless generator of stimuli. Prices move, patterns form, the volatility changes, the emotional tone of a session shifts, and without a deliberate act of stepping outside that stimulus environment before entering it, you entered at the mercy of whatever internal state you arrived with, unexamined and unaccounted for. The assessment creates the gap. It is not the content of the answers that matters most, though honest answers to the 4 questions do matter. It is the act of stepping outside the habitual trajectory, from sitting down to opening charts to placing orders and inserting a few minutes of structured self-observation into that trajectory. That insertion is what creates the space in which a different quality of attention becomes possible. Think of it this way. Most traders move from waking up to sitting down to trading on a kind of automatic track. The stimulus pulls the response, the screen opens, and the eyes go to price. The price creates a feeling, and the feeling begins to generate an impulse. And somewhere in that chain of stimulus and response, the trade happens. Not because the trader decided to trade, because the chain ran to its conclusion. The state assessment interrupts the chain. It says, before the stimulus environment takes over, look at the instrument, look at yourself. Make a conscious, deliberate assessment of whether the instrument is ready to do the job, and then decide from that assessment rather than letting the stimulus chain decide for you. That deliberate decision made before the charts are open, before the prices are visible, before the impulse has had a chance to form is the highest leverage intervention point in the entire trading process, because everything downstream of it is influenced by the quality of the state that enters the market. And the state assessment is the only tool that addresses that quality directly before it has already expressed itself in decisions you cannot take back. There is one more thing I want to add to the protocol, and it is the most counterintuitive piece. On the days where you assess honestly and determine that you are in a good state decision one, proceed with full execution. I want you to write one additional sentence before you open the charts. The sentence is, I am clear today, and clear does not mean certain. This is not a qualification of your readiness. It is a reminder of what clear actually means in a probabilistic environment. Clear means your attention is present, your emotional state is appropriately calm, your plan is written, and you are ready to execute. It does not mean the next trade will win. It does not mean the market will behave in a way that rewards your analysis. It does not mean today is a good day in the market. You do not know that yet, and the clear state does not give you access to that information. Clear means the instrument is ready. What the instrument encounters once it enters the market is still uncertain. Always. Write the sentence. Let it do its work. Because the specific failure of a good clear state is the mistaken belief that clarity about process equals certainty about outcome. It does not. It never does. The clarity is about you. The uncertainty is about the market. Both remain true simultaneously, and remembering both simultaneously is the specific mental posture that allows a trader in a clear state to execute precisely and hold the outcome with equanimity, regardless of which direction it goes. That posture, the ability to be clear about the process and genuinely accepting of outcome uncertainty at the same time, is not a personality type or a natural talent. It is a practiced skill. The state assessment, applied daily across months of consistent sessions, is how the skill gets built. It is where the posture comes from. You are not born with it. You build it. Session by session, question by question, honest written answer by honest written answer, across the accumulation of sessions that eventually add up to a career. This is how the career gets built. Not through the discovery of a better entry or a more sophisticated exit. Through the daily practice of showing up to the market as the most accurate, attentive, state-assessed version of yourself that you can be on that day. That is the step. 3 minutes. Every session. Before the chart. Start tomorrow. I want to spend a moment on what prevents people from implementing this, because it is not lack of information and it is not lack of intention. I have shared this protocol with hundreds of traders over the years. Almost all of them understood it. Almost all of them agreed it made sense. A much smaller number actually implemented it consistently across 60 or more sessions. And when I asked the ones who did not stick with it why they stopped, the answers clustered around a small number of themes. The most common one was, I forgot. The second most common was, it felt like it was slowing me down on days when I was clearly fine. The third was, I started doing it in my head instead of writing it down and eventually stopped doing it at all. Let me address all three, because these are not character flaws. They are predictable resistance patterns that any new behavioral protocol will generate, and knowing about them in advance gives you the best possible chance of navigating them when they show up. Forgetting is solved by a physical anchor. Put the journal on the keyboard before you go to sleep the night before a trading day. Not next to the keyboard, on it. So that when you sit down in the morning, the journal is physically between you and the screen. You have to pick it up and move it before you can open the charts. That physical act is the cue. It is the trigger for the protocol. It is much harder to forget something that is literally in the way of what you want to do. The feeling that you are slowing yourself down on clearly fine days is addressed by the data. Track your execution quality on assessment days versus non-assessment days for 30 sessions. Not informally, in your memory, in the journal. After 30 sessions, look at the data. The data will tell you whether the assessment is adding value on the fine days. In my experience, and in the experience of almost every trader I have watched implement this seriously, the data shows that the assessment adds value even on the fine days, because the act of articulating your find state, writing it down, making it explicit, actually deepens the quality of the clarity rather than just confirming it. The assessment is not just a check, it is a preparation. It sets the attentional frame for the session in a way that 3 minutes of looking at charts before starting cannot replicate. And doing it in your head instead of in writing is the most expensive shortcut in this entire protocol, because the difference between thinking your answers and writing them is not aesthetic, it is functional. Written answers require specificity. They require you to commit to a particular description of your state in words that can be reread and evaluated. Thought answers are infinitely revisable in the moment, which means the uncomfortable, honest answer can be smoothed into something more palatable without you ever noticing you did it. Writing removes that escape route. The honest answer that you would have talked yourself out of in 30 seconds of thinking sits there on the page, unrevised, as the actual input to your decision. That is the entire value of the writing. Do not shortcut it. The 3 minutes you save by thinking instead of writing will cost you far more than 3 minutes in the sessions where the uncomfortable, honest answer was the one you needed to see. Keep the journal physical. Keep the writing mandatory. Keep the protocol intact. Show up to it every session the way you show up to the market, not because today necessarily requires it, but because consistency is the mechanism by which the protocol builds the skill it is designed to build. You do not do the assessment because today might be a bad day. You do it because the daily practice of self-assessment is itself the training. The assessment is not the tool you use when things are difficult. It is the practice that makes you capable of using it when things are difficult. There is a difference. The practice happens every day. The tool is ready when you need it, precisely because the practice did not stop on the easy days. 3 minutes before every session. That is the step 95% of traders miss. You now know it, you know why it matters, you know exactly how to do it, and you know how to prevent the 3 most common ways people stop doing it. The only question left is whether tomorrow morning, when the screen is pulling your attention and the market is opening and the setups are forming, you will open the journal first. Do that. Everything else follows from that.